a Jew who lived in New York and then later in California, became famous for his contribution to psychology. In 1943, Abraham Maslow created a pyramid of human needs. The most basic things one has to have are food and shelter. If these needs are met, he needs security. Then he can think about his social status and social environment. This is followed by the desire to express himself and the awareness of his uniqueness. And on the very, very top of this pyramid, that is the least necessary, is finding the meaning of his life, creating a specific worldview and answering moral dilemmas. This order seems to be quite reasonable. If a person has nothing to eat, then he has little interest in his uniqueness. A person who is in immediate danger doesn't think about his social status. At exactly the same time, in 1943, another Jew, also a psychologist, also thought about the hierarchy of human needs. This Jew has been a personal student of Sigmund Freud before World War II, but now he was not in New York or California, the richest and most comfortable places on planet in those days. He was in Auschwitz concentration camp. His name was Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl, barely staying alive in inhumane conditions, was helping others to survive by talking to them about faith and the purpose of their lives, instilling in them the belief that their meager existence had meaning, that every day, no matter how difficult it was, had a higher purpose. Frankl wrote that in these conditions, the desire to live was the most necessary ingredient for survival. Those who lost the meaning of their existence died, not from beatings or from hunger. They died simply because they no longer wanted to live. Experiencing torture and abuse, Frankl constantly reminded himself of Friedrich Nietzsche's quote, "If you have a why, you can bear almost any how." Frankl's ideas were confirmed by research later after the war. The statistics of survival of people of faith in camps were much higher. Those who were endangering themselves and with their last strength were performing religious rituals and were sacrificing for them their last bits of food had a better chance of survival. Living in the richest and safest places at that time, Maslow had only a theoretical understanding of basic needs of a man. His thoughts seem true to us today as we read them on paper, perhaps because the lack of basic necessities for survival for us, thank God, is only a theoretical concept. Frankl, on the other hand, experienced every deprivation imaginable and, from his own experience, not in theory, determined what human greatest needs are. And he created a school of thought which expresses ideas diametrically opposing to those of Maslow. In Maslow's theory, the least important thing is finding meaning in life, creating a specific worldview, and establishing a moral structure. For Maslow, this is a luxury that can be only afforded by those who already have everything else. Well, the most basic need is the one that is necessary if everything else is taken away. Frankl, who had everything else taken away, was convinced that the most basic need of a human was the one that Maslow called the least necessary. And what needs do we focus on in our lives? How much time do we devote to each one of these needs? What needs do we provide for our children? Making sure that we will earn enough money for food and clothing is absolutely necessary. But there are things which are even more important than those. How much attention do we devote to them?